This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
Goodbye, Cam.
Hello, Teddy.
Free agent signings.
Breaking news.
Former Panthers finding homes with old friends, all on this episode of MeowMix, a Carolina Panthers podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to MeowMix, a Carolina Panthers podcast. My name is Steven.
My name is Jerry.
And on today's show, we are going to talk about several free agent signings and several free agent departures from the Panthers. But the main news of the day, and why we're doing an emergency podcast, Cam Newton.
What about the other big name that's coming here?
We'll talk about him in a minute, but the big news is Cam.
See, I think they're interconnected. You can't just say Cam Newton.
I'm dedicating this portion of the podcast to Cam Newton.
I have no problem dedicating this whole situation to Cam Newton, as he was wronged by this franchise.
He was wronged by the franchise. So let's give Cam a little bit of time here. We'll talk about his replacement here in a few minutes, but Cam is leaving, and I really don't feel good about the way it's happening.
No, not at all. This feels like amateur hour in the front office, because let's just go ahead and say it. The Panthers came out and said, hey, we are discussing with Cam Newton a possible trade scenarios.
Mm-hmm. No, they said we're giving Cam Newton, or granting him permission to explore a trade, essentially. Okay. That's what they said.
Correct. And then Cam Newton came out on, not Twitter. Sorry, guys.
Instagram.
I've been celebrating St. Patrick's Day, and I'm going to be loud and a little bit forgetful. But on Instagram, he wrote, "Stop with the wordplay. Never ask for it. There is no dodging this one. I love the Panthers to death and will always love you guys. Please do not try to play me or manipulate the narrative and act like I wanted this. You forced me into this. Love." And then Greg Olsen even commented on this, saying, "Sounds familiar." This isn't going well for this front office since Matt Rule has taken over.
Right, and you remember Greg Olsen, it was a quote-unquote mutual parting of ways, which Greg Olsen vehemently denies. He says that it was not mutual at all. The Panthers didn't want him back. So, yeah, this is, starting to become sort of a trend with David Tepper run franchise here, which I still like David Tepper, but Jerry Richardson also.
Wait. You keep saying David Tepper. You mean Matt Rule?
No, I mean David Tepper.
Oh.
Because Matt Rule wasn't here when was it Thomas Davis that was released? Yeah. So that one I don't think went quite as poorly, but it was also one of the things, there was a lot of hard feelings, from Thomas Davis to the Panthers.
Yeah, this doesn't seem to be going well in the Panthers' way. Yeah. They seem to be making adjustments, which are fine. You can replace Cam Newton, but you just have to let him know. You can't. Supposedly he was blindsided when the news broke. No one told him. He thought he was going in as the starter, as you and I were from the scouting combine comments by Matt Rule.
Yeah, and Cam seemed to also think that, he said he'd had great conversations with Tepper and Hurney and was planning on being back this year. My understanding is that he and his agent met with Tepper and Hurney either today or maybe yesterday or sometime very recently, and they had kind of decided at that point that Cam was not going to be back, but framing it in such a way that it makes it sound like Cam wanted to go out and seek a trade. When you say we're granting permission, that I think that's what rubbed Cam wrong for sure. But I do feel like this kind of came out of nowhere. Even if it was just yesterday or even today, Cam obviously wasn't expecting it. And just like with Olsen and just like with Thomas Davis, again, like we said, this is not these are your stars. These are the faces of the franchise. These are the guys that you have to handle them with kid gloves. You have to handle them very carefully, especially when you're letting them go, because other people around the league see how you handle situations like this.
Correct. You're absolutely correct.
For a long time, the Panthers had a very good reputation of how they treated stars. And a lot of that came from Hurney, giving out big contracts to guys that maybe didn't deserve it. But, the locker room was great here. The culture was great here. Maybe outside of Jerry Richardson and the kind of the front office culture, but the locker room culture was great here. And when these guys, just these franchise staples, keep getting the shaft and being released in a very negative way, that just doesn't look good at all. Doesn't look good at all.
No. It doesn't look good for other players. It doesn't look good from the fans' perspective. Like, we put a lot of love into Cam Newton.
Yeah.
And now the way they treated him, it feels wrong. It feels wrong as a Panthers fan.
Yeah, it does. And, and not to mention, they sort of jerk the fans around a little bit too. Matt Rule coming out and saying how he loved Cam and couldn't wait to work with Cam and was, excited to have Cam on the field and healthy. That was not even a month ago. That was like 2 weeks ago. And everybody heard him say that. All the fans heard him say that. So don't lie to us,
Yeah, I don't understand why he would come out and say that if that was the issue. I've also heard through sources from the Panthers organization, I heard this on the radio, so I do not have sources in the Panthers organization, that they knew Cam Newton wanted a extension, wanted a new contract, which goes inside with him meeting within the past couple days with the organization, and the organization knew they weren't going to extend him at this time. So that could fall into this, but you still have to let him know.
Yeah, and I think part of that, you could look into that statement he made about wanting some commitment, right, from the Panthers, as saying that he wanted some sort of extension. And I don't fault the Panthers for not wanting to give him an extension.
No, not at all.
Not with the way things have gone for the last several years. Not at all.
We haven't seen him in 3 years. A healthy Cam Newton we haven't seen really in 3 years.
Yeah. We saw a version of Cam in, early 2018 that looked good, but it wasn't the Cam that we expected to see. It wasn't a deep-throwing Cam. It was a Cam who sort of fell apart at the end of the season. So
still had a recent shoulder surgery.
Yeah, a lot of people point to those 8 games and say, well, see, he was 6-2 here. He had really good numbers. And they point to that as the reason why Cam should still be around and maybe should have gotten an extension. But you've got that sandwiched with, a lot of games where he just did not look good or was hurt or got hurt and, probably shouldn't have played a lot in that second half of 2018. I think we all agree with that, right?
Oh, yes.
But then to get hurt at, before the season even started last year, and then obviously was played the first 2 games, shouldn't have been. But it leads to a guy who maybe is breaking down. So, this isn't an anti-Cam podcast at all because I really wish that we would have kept Cam. But I can see from the team's perspective, I think we both can, why they let him go. We just don't like the way they did it.
They haven't officially let him go. Let's put that out
there.
He's available to seek a trade if he wants to.
But he will be cut if they don't find a trade.
Which is, if we get nothing for Cam Newton, is pure asinine.
Yeah.
That boils down to
this
amateur hour of the front office for this.
Yeah.
This should have been done last week if they wanted to do it. They should have sought a trade last week before free agency hit, before all these big name quarterbacks hit the market, got a trade done, and before you sign somebody else. Now they've signed somebody else. They put everything in oh yeah, we're not moving forward with Cam Newton. All the teams are either going to lowball us now or just wait till we cut him so they can pay Cam Newton. This makes no sense in the front office situation. It makes Matt Rule and Marty Herney look like clowns. This looks pathetic amateur hour.
It does, they, and they have, Panthers.com has goodbye Cam all over it. Their Twitter has goodbye Cam all over it. So this is, for all intents and purposes, he's gone. But you're right. Like, why would you kill your own leverage by just telling the entire football world that Cam's not going to be here next year? So why are you going to poker? Yeah, why are you going to come bring your best offer?
Yeah, it's like playing poker and saying, "Hey, by the way, guys, I'm bluffing."
Right. The only way this works out for the Panthers is if there are multiple teams interested in Cam and a bidding war breaks out. If you've got the Patriots and the Chargers, the Colts. Well, the Colts just signed Rivers, so but the Patriots, Chargers, that's really, are those the only teams that really need a quarterback? You got
after so far with the free agency, pretty much. Dolphins maybe.
Well, you figured the Dolphins are going to draft Tua. You figured Cincinnati's going to draft Burrow. Jordan Love Love is going to go somewhere. Herbert's going to go somewhere. So those are really four places that probably Cam wouldn't be traded to. You could see the Dolphins maybe taking a shot at Cam and still drafting Tua, but Cam's going to want some. I think Cam's probably going to want a long-term deal.
Yeah, I think that's what's been hinted at of why they are moving this direction.
Yeah.
Is he wants a long-term deal.
So, we've talked, I think we did a podcast late last year or sometime in the middle of last year where we sort of did a goodbye to Cam because I think this is not like a shock to any of us.
No. It's not too much of a shock. I think the past couple weeks when they did that whole at the scouting combine, Matt Rule said that. I think that, okay, we're moving forward with Cam. That makes sense. We didn't get a top draft pick. It doesn't look like we're going to get one of the top 3 quarterbacks. All right, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Let's go this route. And not only that, you're going to have to get a good trade value for him, and it doesn't look like we're going to get that because he's been injured. And now we showed our hand saying that we've already moved on, so we're going to get nothing for him.
Well, like I said, if there does happen to be a bidding war, then we could. We still could make a decent haul off of Cam. What would make you happy, I guess? A second-round pick?
I think now a second-round pick would at least make me feel okay. I wanted a first for him as he's been an NFL MVP. He's only 31 years old. Yeah, he's got some tread on the tires, but usually someone's going to pay for that. But I don't see it now.
Yeah, so the last 4 years since Cam's MVP season, now, of course, there were some injuries here, of course, but Cam is 23-23, averages 2,600 yards passing.
Well, you got to take into effect that he didn't play all those games.
Okay, this is in 46 games.
Okay,
so this is his average 46 games. 2,694 yards passing average, 16 touchdowns, 11 interceptions average. So he's got 65 touchdowns, 44 interceptions in those 4 years. Taken 106 sacks for 775 yards. And he's got running, but it's not nearly the running that he had in the past. So, he's, he's not the Cam that we remember. He's in those 4 years, he's rushed for 1,113 yards over the 4 years. So, is he the Cam of old? No. But, and I was wrong on those numbers, sorry. It's 1,600 yards rushing.
He really hasn't played in a year and a half.
Yeah.
So, those numbers are also kind of skewed because of that. It's, I have no problem moving on. I have a problem with the way this front office has done it. not letting him know, not making the move before signing another quarterback, not making this move a week ago. A week ago, if this move has been made, even if they didn't tell him, I would feel a little bit better. It feels like they don't know what they're planning on doing, and they're quickly reacting. Maybe Matt Rule is a college coach who is frantically trying to catch up to the NFL game.
Well, you say before we sign another quarterback. I mean, nobody can be signed until tomorrow, right? Tomorrow's the opening of free agency. We do have a deal in place, it sounds like, with another quarterback, which maybe is why this thing got, fast-tracked. Maybe they were waiting to see if, and let's just say it, Teddy Bridgewater is going to be the Panthers starting quarterback next year, barring any...
I think it's already written on the wall.
Yeah, barring any kind of odd draft day shenanigans. Teddy Bridgewater is going to be the guy. So maybe the reason that they waited was to see if they could get a free agent quarterback, a Teddy Bridgewater or Phillip Rivers or Marcus Mariota or somebody in that price range that's not going to break the bank, but is going to provide you a good quarterback, not a quarterback that's going to win you a Super Bowl. I think we can agree on that. But
from what I've heard, again, is that they view Teddy Bridgewater.
Your sources telling you this?
My non-sources says that it's going to be they view him as a stopgap quarterback till they get a franchise quarterback. The deal is supposedly for about 3 years, $60 million. Nothing has been released here. So you assume $60 million, and probably not all of that is guaranteed. So I'm assuming it's probably like $16 million a year, with escalators can get up to 20.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what the deal is. I would imagine it's like probably realistically like a 2-year, $40 million deal. Yeah. And then there's a third year that you could cut him with minimal downside. Yeah.
And Joe Brady is very familiar with Teddy Bridgewater. He coached him not last year, but the year before in New Orleans. So he's very familiar with him. So obviously he feels comfortable with him being the starting quarterback for however long they need him to be. So there is positives about Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, first round pick, been to the Pro Bowl. He looked decent in Minnesota. Everybody expected him to take that big leap in the third year before that freak leg injury sidelined him. People thought he would never walk or play again. So
yeah. I mean, I guess let's go ahead and talk about Teddy now. A lot of people are not going to like this signing.
No.
But
the way it went down, everybody's going to really hate Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater has got to walk on water, save a dozen children from a burning building to get love in Charlotte right now.
Well, I don't know if people are going to blame Teddy Bridgewater for Cam leaving, but and there are a lot of people that don't like Cam. There are a lot of people that wanted Cam gone. But I think there's a lot of people that wanted Cam to stay, or if he did leave, then they wanted something more flashy than Teddy Bridgewater to come in. But you have to think about why the Panthers are making this move. And you said it. Yeah. He's a bridge quarterback. He's a hold the fort quarterback. He's going to come in. He's not going to actively lose you games. He is a guy who's a veteran guy. He's been in the league since 2014. He is going to, if we do happen to draft like a Justin Herbert or somebody like that this year, he's a guy that he's been on both sides of it, right? He's been on a starter side. He's been on a guy that's supposed to be a star. He's been that guy. He's been a backup. He's been injured. He's seen the game from just about any way that a quarterback can see the game. Yeah. And he came in, he looked really good last year,
Yeah. I want to go back to a part where you said that. Now, we can earmark this and completely delete this out of the podcast, by the way.
Okay.
If you don't want to talk about this. But there's a big portion of fans who never really believed in Cam Newton or did not like him. Do you think there's a portion that won't like Teddy Bridgewater for the same reason? I'm being honest.
Whatever could you be referring to, Jerry? Okay, so there's a difference between Cam and Teddy, right? Yes, they're both African American quarterbacks, which I think is what you were getting at there. Cam is, and I think a lot of people didn't like Cam because of his personality. Cam was very flashy, very me first, very egotistical, celebrate on the field, do his little dances, all cameras point at me. He's that kind of guy. Now, he earned it in my opinion. That didn't bother me at all. But that's why a lot of folks, especially older folks, did not like Cam. More conservative folks, you could say, did not like Cam. Teddy Bridgewater's not that guy.
Yeah, no, he's not.
Teddy Bridgewater is a very low-key, respectful, very soft-spoken kind of guy. At least in the off the field.
And I like Teddy Bridgewater a lot. I think we've talked about him glowingly on this podcast before, just how he's run into a lot of bad luck, with the Minnesota injury, then got horrible advice and went and signed with the Jets. Then they drafted Darnold, which everybody knew they were.
Never played a game.
And then get shipped off to New Orleans, which smart play by New Orleans, but you're not going to unseat Drew Brees.
Right.
So now he has to sit until that contract's out. Like he's had a lot of bad luck. I feel kind of bad for him, and I think he has some talent. I don't think he's necessarily. He could be a good starting quarterback. I don't think he's going to be an upper echelon quarterback, but I think he could be a decent starting quarterback with a built team around him. That was before he signed here. So, but I don't like the way it was handled in shipping Cam off.
Yeah. He's not a runner, right? He's a pocket quarterback. He's what a lot of people wanted here. A pocket quarterback who's not flashy, who goes out and does his job and doesn't want the spotlight or demand the spotlight, I should say.
Yeah.
So I actually think that people that didn't like Cam are going to like Teddy Bridgewater as long as he performs on the field. That's going to make everything, determine his like or dislike here in the Carolinas. So Teddy, overall Teddy is 22-12 as a starter. Obviously, he did have 2 seasons basically where he was completely out. He did nothing. Had that massive injury back in, was it 2016, I think?
Yeah.
Where he just, people didn't know if he's going to walk again.
Yeah.
And he was drafted in Minnesota, got hurt there, went to New Orleans, like you said, backed up Drew Brees. Last year, he had a pretty significant stretch where he started. He was 5-0 in that stretch. Yeah. 1,384 yards, 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Again, he's not a runner. I think he only ran for like 28 yards total in that stretch. But if you take those numbers and you stretch them out across 16 games, that's 4,400 yards, 29 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. That's a really good season.
Yeah,
that's a really good season.
And you wonder, I don't want to say you wonder, but you have to worry that it could be the New Orleans Saints system. But at the same time, he played really well in Minnesota. He went to a Pro Bowl in his second year.
He did. And by the way, who's our offensive coordinator next year? Where'd he come from?
Joe Brady. Well, that's why I brought up earlier that Joe Brady is familiar with him, worked with him before. If he wanted to go out and sign him to this decent contract and let Cam Newton go, I feel like he felt confident enough in Bridgewater that he could be the guy for a while.
Yeah. And you mentioned, maybe it was New Orleans' system. I think we're going to run a system pretty similar to what New Orleans is running. And even though we don't have Michael Thomas, DJ Moore had a huge jump in his second year and could have an even bigger jump in his third year. He could be 95% of Michael Thomas, which would be an extremely good wide receiver 1.
I think Michael Thomas and DJ Moore are 2 completely different styles.
Yes, Jerry. I'm not saying that they do the same thing, but in production-wise is what I'm saying.
I hope so. I saw last year where Joe Brady really designed plays to get wide receivers open in space, and I think that's where DJ Moore can really benefit from.
Yeah. So, I think both of us are on the page of saying that we like the signing, especially considering what this team is going to be next year. Mm-hmm. And probably the year after that. I mean, honestly.
I don't think Teddy Bridgewater is a bum. I'll say that.
Do you think Teddy Bridgewater is the starting quarterback for the Panthers in 2022? That will be a third year of his contract.
I can't say that, yes or no. I'm going to say no if I have to choose.
You have to choose.
If I have to choose, I'm going to say no, but I would not be surprised if he did. If we go 7 and, wait, we have 17 games next year.
No, by the way, next year. Not next year.
Oh, it's not next year?
No, it probably will start 2021, maybe 2022.
If we win 8 or 9 games, I think he does. I think he continues on. If he looks good enough, I think he'll stay here. And
I think that's one of the good reasons to come to Carolina for him. Looking at this from his perspective, he's got a chance to come in here with very low expectations. Mm-hmm. And if he overperforms and sort of ruins the Panthers' chances at getting somebody like Trevor Lawrence, right? Which, you hear the rumors the Panthers are going to tank for Trevor. If he comes in here and does a good enough job to where they do win 7 or 8 games, then they're not going to be in any position to draft Trevor Lawrence.
No.
So he could conceivably perform his way into another big contract. He's only 27 years old.
Yeah.
And this is a 3-year deal. He'll be 30 by the time this deal is up, 29 probably by the time he's ready for an extension. And if he's played well enough, then why not? I mean, if you can find a guy who's, it's sort of like a Kirk Cousins deal, right? Where he just didn't work out in his previous spot. He goes somewhere else and he's played very well. And now he's signed another extension. He's going to be there 3 more years. So you can find franchise quarterbacks like this. It doesn't happen often, but this is a very unique circumstance for Teddy Bridgewater and for the Panthers. And it could work out.
And the last time a New Orleans backup came and started for the Carolina, it turned out pretty good. Not going to say he's going to have Jake Delhomme's career here in Carolina.
Are you saying that Teddy Bridgewater might name some of his horses after DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what Teddy Bridgewater does.
So, I mean, look at some of the other names that were out there. Phillip Rivers, Andy Dalton, Tom Brady. I'd rather have Teddy Bridgewater than any of those guys. Just because of the potential.
Yeah. I think at this point, Tom Brady, Phillip Rivers, Drew Brees technically was a free agent too. Those guys would not work well here at all because we know this is going to be, even if they don't completely dismantle the team, it's still a rebuild. This is not going to be a Super Bowl contender next year.
Right. Might all those guys have better years than Teddy next year? Maybe. Mm-hmm. But for, the future of the franchise, I think Teddy's a good risk to take. It's not a lot of money, especially with the CBA going up again. It's 10% of the cap. I'm sorry, not the CBA going up again, the cap going up again. Cap is going to be $198 million, and he's going to be $20 million. That's 10%. That's way less than some of these other guys.
I don't even think he's going to be $20 million.
It depends on how the cap numbers work out.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the first year they'll have like a cap hit of 22, and then it'll drop significantly. Yeah. I honestly expect it to be a 2-year deal where we could get out with little to no dead cap in the 3rd season.
Yeah, very well could be, and that would be smart, especially if they are planning to tank for Trevor.
Yeah.
Oh man, so I mean, overall, I think personally, I sort of expected the Panthers to get rid of Cam.
Yeah.
Even after all this time where they're saying he's going to come back, you just felt like with Rivera gone, Greg Olsen gone, Luke Kuechly gone, Thomas Davis last year gone, a lot of the defense gone. Like, it just felt like the team was moving on, and it would be weird to bring Cam back. Now, what's he coming back for? So
now,
hold on. Let me finish my statement.
Oh, sorry.
So for me, yes, I'm sad to see Cam go. I'm also excited to see what happens to Cam and where he goes and how he performs. And I'm excited to have Teddy, honestly. I'm excited to see what happens. I'm way more excited for this season than I was a few hours ago. I'll say that. You may proceed.
Well, you and I are in different boats here on this.
Okay.
I was kind of shocked by this.
Yeah.
I was expecting after the scouting combine that Cam Newton was going to start. I thought originally for a while he was going to end up starting, and then we were either going to transition tag him next year and then trade him, or go kind of that route because we weren't probably going to get much for him. But this kind of threw me through a loop because Cam Newton's only 31. He wasn't a large cap hit. I'm like you. I am not horrified by Teddy Bridgewater coming in. I think he's a solid quarterback. And if we didn't have Cam Newton on the roster in the first place, I'd be very ecstatic about bringing him in. I just don't like the way things went down, and give me Cam Newton or give me Teddy Bridgewater. I think I'm leaning towards Cam Newton. On an even playing field, same cap hit and everything, but
sure. Okay, so that's the question, right? Is knowing what you know about Cam's health, which is really, we know a lot, but we also don't know a lot, right? We have no idea what he's going to be like this year. Who'd you rather have?
I think still Cam Newton.
Okay.
And let me explain why. If we have Cam Newton, and if he's not fully healthy, we're going to only win 3-4 games.
Now, okay.
But if he's healthy and he lights it up, then you sign him to a contract, and then you roll with him for the next 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
If not, you 3-4 wins, you're going to go and try to get a quarterback anyways at the next season.
I think that's assuming a lot. That's assuming that Cam stays healthy for the next 4 or 5 years, right? Just because he's healthy for 1 year doesn't mean he's going to be healthy for the next 5 years. I just don't know. I don't know what Cam is anymore. I honestly don't. And I think that uncertainty, I kind of know what Teddy Bridgewater is. I know he's not going to make a lot of mistakes. I know he's not going to he seems like he's healthy now. He hasn't played 16 games since 2015, so we'll have to see about that. But he looked very steady last year with the Saints. So I think for this team, I think I'd rather have Teddy because for Cam, I don't think you were going to get Cam for 1 year. I don't think Cam wanted to play without an extension. And I don't blame him at all because if he does get hurt, he's got no security past that. So if I'm Cam, I want at least 3 years, of pay coming towards me based on the way he plays the game.
And I understand that, and I could see where if he was demanding a extension or something like that, that's the route you go. But I don't know if that's what happened. If that meeting earlier a couple days ago,
yeah,
that's what they're like. We want an extension. Nope, we're moving on. We want a $30 million per year extension.
Yeah, I don't know if they would necessarily ask for that. I think that would be kind of unreasonable. But then again,
agreed.
Ryan Tannehill's getting $30 million. So maybe that's what they did want. And if that's the case, I'm sorry, Cam. I'm not interested in that.
And that's kind of where we're sitting at, is we're assuming what happened. And if that's true, I agree. It's time to move on anyways.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's 35 minutes almost of Cam talk. So Cam and Teddy talk. Do you have any final thoughts on either of these guys before we kind of move on to some of the other flashy free agent signings?
Well, Cam Newton, we love you. You gave your heart and soul to this team, and I enjoyed watching you throughout those years. It was fun to have a quarterback that it was just entertaining to watch. You never knew what happened. I'm going to miss it. My wife and I actually talked. We were like, this is going to be really sad that our daughter was born, even though she probably wouldn't remember it. She'll never get to see Cam Newton, Luke Kuechly, that organization out there. That it was so fun for the past few years.
Yeah, and this does sort of remind me of the conversation we had last year about Cam. the Carolinas has never had a superstar like Cam, a international superstar like Cam, and we're gonna miss him. I mean, we really are. We're gonna miss leading Sports Center. We're gonna miss seeing his name all over social media when he does something spectacular. I mean, we'll see it, but it won't be but for the Panthers, right? I mean, he had the dab. That became a freaking international thing. I mean, it was a thing before, but Cam made it popular. That was all Cam, and it was all over the place for.
There was elderly people doing the dab.
Yeah, the Superman. I mean, he made the Superman popular. He came into the league saying that he wanted to be an icon, an entertainer and an icon. He was and is. I mean, he will forever be remembered as the best Panthers quarterback that we had up until this point. By easily. Far. And probably the best franchise player that the Panthers ever had. Mm-hmm. So, good luck, Cam. I really look forward to seeing wherever you land, and hopefully it's not with the Bears because that's where quarterbacks go to die. I hope it's somewhere nice and sunny and shiny, and you're healthy, and I want to see you play for another 10 years.
So you're hoping the Chargers?
I'd love to see him with the Chargers. I'd love to see him with the Chargers. Yeah, or the Dolphins, I guess. But I'd love to see him with the Chargers.
All right.
Oh, let's make a bet.
Okay.
Beer bet of the week.
Beer bet of the off season.
Beer bet of the off season.
Beer bet of the off season. I can't do the off season.
That was a pretty good one. Let's just let's make our bet where he goes. I actually bet that he goes to the Chargers. I think that's a great place for him.
I think the Bears. I think that they're going to trade away. I think they're in win now mode, and I think a healthy Cam Newton could put them into Super Bowl contention, considering Mitch Trubisky had them in, I'm using quotes, Super Bowl contention last year. So
I think the Chargers need fans. They need people to show up to the games, and Cam Newton will bring people to the games, especially if he's healthy. Do you think it's a trade, or do you think he just gets cut and signs?
I'm going to go with my wishful thinking trade.
And what do you think we get? Realistically,
probably like a third or fourth.
Yeah. I think he just ends up getting cut. I don't think we get anything for him. And unfortunately, since we're signing Bridgewater at basically the same salary, we're not going to get any kind of compensatory pay for him. So
nope.
So there you go. All right. Well, good luck, Cam. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back, and we will talk about the rest of the free agent signings. Hello, everyone. I want to take a quick minute and tell you about an amazing app I've been using for a while now, Get Upside. Do you ever fill up at a gas station and a few minutes later pass another station that's a few cents cheaper per gallon? It is the worst, right? Those days are over with Get Upside. With Get Upside, you not only get to see what the price per gallon is around you, you save even more money per gallon by using the app. It's as simple as opening the app, clicking on the gas station where you're filling up, and then filling up. You can get up to 40 cents per gallon back, and you can use that money on gift cards, transfer it to a PayPal account, even get an old-fashioned check in the mail if that's what you're into. I personally earned over $50 back using the app just in the last few months, and I only fill up like once every couple of weeks. It's so simple. Why not use Get Upside when filling up? Use promo code C38EU to sign up and get an additional 15 cents back per gallon on your first purchase. That's promo code C38EU. Get Upside and get paid.
And we're back. And before we go around the NFL, we did have the Panthers agree to sign two free agents yesterday on the opening day of tampering. Defensive end Stephen Weatherly from the Vikings. Over the last 2 years, he's totaled 6 sacks, 59 tackles, and 17 quarterback hits. He's only 25 years old, 4 years in the league, was a 7th-round pick. This looks like a guy that's coming up, growing into the position. So it'll be interesting to see if he fights for a starting position or rotation. They also signed Justin Burris, defensive back from the Browns, 26 years, 4 years in the NFL. he's actually a Raleigh native, so attended North Carolina State. So you're going to have a lot of Wolfpack fans. He can also play safety and cornerback, so he'll probably, float around back there.
Those are always good guys to have.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know if he'll be a starter with, well, what we'll talk about soon, Bradbury leaving, but I doubt it. I think we'll probably have to adjust or address that in a different area, probably the draft.
Yeah, I don't really have too many thoughts on either of those guys. I saw that, who was the Minnesota guy? Weatherly?
Yeah, Weatherly.
I saw people talking really highly about him. He didn't get a ton of starts with them, but he did play a lot, and he put up some pretty good numbers, and supposedly just a very solid guy. So I'm excited about that one. I'm not sure the other signing. I don't really have any.
I feel like both of these guys. I feel like both of these guys are starter role player, starter/role players. They could wind up being either or.
Yeah.
Nothing. I don't feel
super
either,
sub or an average starter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Also with the Panthers, Colin Jones asked to be released, and the Panthers obliged. So happy trails, safety, Colin Jones. Thankfully, we never have to watch you play safety again.
Yeah, hated watching him play safety, but supposedly, I mean, all accounts are, and we saw it, he's a very good special teams player, so we will miss him on special teams, but God, I will not miss seeing him play safety. He was terrible.
Yep. Now, currently, free agents from the Panthers that have no agreement in place: safety Trey Boston, defensive tackle Gerald McCoy, Bruce Irvin, linebacker edge rusher, cornerback Ross Cockrell, guard Greg Van Roten, Vernon Butler, Dave Gettleman's fantastic first-round pick, defensive tackle Kyle Love, Stacy McGee, who just was signed late in the last season, defensive end Wes Orton, Javian Elliott, Chris Hogan, Darrell Williams, and Dontario Poe are still free agents with no agreements.
Yeah, and we may re-sign some of those guys. I hope we do re-sign a couple of them.
Yeah.
Specifically Van Roten.
I wouldn't mind Cockrell coming back either.
Yeah, Cockrell
I feel
too.
like
Yep.
feel like average starter, role player guy. That fits his MO, and I think that would be a solid corner for us.
Agree.
Now, let's move on to the big name signings. It has been leaked that Tom Brady has agreed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a NFC South division rival, and the announcement will be coming in on Wednesday.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of that'll be fun to watch. If Brady's 80% of what his prime, used to be, then that could be really interesting.
I love this. I love this as a Panthers fan, just because I think this is one. I think Tom Brady has 1, maybe 2 decent years left. I don't think he'll ever be really good, and then they're gonna fall off. Then they're gonna be searching for that quarterback, and then that's when hopefully our rebuild will be done, and then we can.
Right, and that's the other thing, is that this doesn't really affect the Panthers much because we're kind of expecting the Panthers to be poor in the next couple of years. So, I mean, F the Bucs. Like, I don't like the Bucs at all, but I do like watching fun football. Yeah. And they've got some fun players on that team. And if Brady is, like I said, halfway decent, then he's going to be better than Winston. And they could be fun to watch. Yeah. And we'd see them twice a year. So.
And trades. This first day involved a lot of trades. I'm going to go ahead and start off with the first one that kicked it off. The Cardinals and Texans agreed to trade. The Texans traded DeAndre Hopkins, a 2020 4th-round pick, to Arizona for a horrible contract with running back David Johnson, a 2020 2nd-round pick, and a 4th-round pick in 2021. This is an awful trade for the Texans. Who agreed to this? DeAndre Hopkins, 28 years old. David Johnson has had one good season, a monster contract. What are they thinking? They only got a 2nd-round pick for probably one of the elite receivers in the game. He's a top 3, top 5 easily.
Oh, I would say he's at his best, he's the best receiver in the league.
Exactly.
I mean, and he's played with bad quarterbacks. He finally has a good quarterback in Deshaun Watson, and now they trade him. Like it's ridiculous. And
if
they
I
trade him
was-
for nothing. Like, yeah,
Exactly.
second round pick and a fourth round pick and a guy who might not ever play for them or play significantly for them. I mean, David Johnson is washed up, and he's only he's like 25 years old or something. Like, he's not old at all.
If I was Kyler Murray, I'd be going kiss Cliff Kingsbury on the lips, because that is an awesome trade.
Well, that would be the second time you've kissed Cliff Kingsbury on the lips. Yeah, I mean, great trade from the Cards' perspective. They give up not much and get back,
And they dumped a loaded contract that they were going to cut a guy and take dead cap on.
Yeah, which this makes Larry Fitzgerald, I mean, it's got to make him extremely happy. It's going to take all the best corners off him. I mean, he's probably going to have a 1,000-yard season.
And then they're supposedly going to draft a top-tier wide receiver in the draft because this is a receiver-friendly draft.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, look
man.
out for the Cardinals next year.
All right, moving on to the next trade. The 49ers and Colts agreed to terms to trade defensive tackle DeForest Buckner to Indianapolis in exchange for the 2020 first-round pick. And Buckner agreed to a 5-year deal with the Colts to pay him $21 million per season. This is kind of surprising, but not that surprising. The Colts had a lot of cap room, while the 49ers didn't want to pay Buckner that money.
I mean, this feels like a good trade for both sides. I mean, they get the 13th pick. That's really good compensation for a guy that you didn't want to keep.
Exactly.
No matter how good he is, you get a first round pick out, and we're not going to get anywhere near that for Cam. So good job by them. But yeah, like you said, the Colts have a ton of money to spend, and
And they got a great player, a great defensive tackle, for that pick. So they just have to visualize it as the 13th pick, we got a Pro Bowl defensive tackle.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's not the worst case scenario.
I know you're going through trades right now, but let's just talk real quick about Phillip Rivers going to the Colts. 1 year, $25 million. What is the Colts' plan? Why are they signing? They signed Phillip Rivers for 1 year. They signed DeForest Buckner for 5 years. Obviously, they think they're going to compete for a while. Who's their quarterback going to be next year?
I don't know. I'm kind of curious of that myself. I didn't think about that until you just brought that up, as I didn't really pay attention to the Phillip Rivers signing. But yeah, that makes no sense. Granted, maybe they may be worried that he doesn't have it anymore.
Well, they're giving him $25 million. It feels like you sign a guy like that for 1 year, you feel like you're in win now mode. And maybe they are. They think they can, with all this cap money, put together a team that can compete. And maybe they're right, because they competed in a lot of games last year with, Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. So I just wonder what their plan is 2 years from now, because they're not going to be in a position to draft one of the top guys because they're going to have a pretty good team. Are they just hoping that Phillip Rivers is good enough to play another, maybe continue these 1 year deals with him? I find that interesting.
I do too. I don't understand it either. When you brought that up, wasn't thinking about that. I know the Colts team is a solid team, but I don't know. I mean, the year after next,
yeah, we'll see.
Maybe they are hoping they can find another quarterback, to maybe a Jacob Eason in the second round, or Fromm in the second round, that they can have learn under Phillip Rivers. Maybe that's their plan.
Yeah, could be.
Now, there was another trade yesterday on the first day of tampering. The Vikings and Bills. The Vikings agreed to trade wide receiver Stephon Diggs and a 2020 7th-round pick to Buffalo in exchange for a first-round pick, a 5th-round pick, and a 6th-round pick. Now, Stephon Diggs wanted out last year, so this doesn't surprise me. They got a first-round pick out of it. I think the Bills got a really good receiver for a 1st, a 5th, and a 6th-round pick. I think it's a solid trade on both ends again.
I feel like Minnesota won this one. They got a lot back for him. And Stephon Diggs is a very good player. I wouldn't put him in nearly in the same league as Hopkins, which makes that trade look even worse.
Yeah.
But I think Diggs is a top 10 receiver in the league for sure. They have Adam Thielen. I assume they'll probably draft another wide receiver, probably with that first round pick that they're getting from Buffalo. So I feel pretty good about this trade actually from Minnesota. You get a guy out that didn't want to be there, and you maybe bring in somebody that's a better fit with the team, and with Thielen. Because Diggs was very up and down with them, especially last year.
Well, for the Bills, I really like it too because they've been trying to find a receiver, trying, and they can't draft them. They can't sign a free agent. If Stephon Diggs doesn't work out, then that just means it's your system. I mean, you said it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a first-round pick.
Breaking news. The Panthers have signed Trey Boston to a 3-year, $18 million contract.
I like that. I like that signing for us.
I
think
too.
he played really well, and I was hoping we'd bring him back with Eric Reed, even though Eric Reed struggled a little bit last year. I like that a lot, and I'm probably getting that notification right now on my phone.
Good deal. $9.5 million the first year, so interesting. The vast majority of that money coming in the first year, so potential out after year one, I would say, but I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I did too. I was hoping that was one of the guys we talked about last week that we wanted to get re-signed with us, so I'm happy with that.
Yeah. All right. Sorry for interrupting you there.
No. That was the last trade we went over. Now let's move on to the agreed to terms, can't sign till Wednesday aspect. Cornerback, former Panther James Bradbury is going to the Giants to work with Dave Gettleman again. A 3-year deal with $45 million a year, $32 million guaranteed. He did get that $15 million he was wanting per year.
Yeah. Interesting symmetry here with Gettleman not wanting to pay Josh Norman $15 million a year, letting him go. Now Gettleman, maybe realizing the value of a top-end cornerback, giving James Bradbury $15 million a year, taking him from Carolina. So kind of interesting symmetry there. But good for Bradbury. He played very well last couple of years, and I guess he's worth $15 million a year. I mean, again, the cap went up, so the market's kind of reset a little bit. Good for him.
That's what I was just about to say. I was like, once that cap keeps going up, it's going to look like a steal. Just like Cam Newton's deal originally looked like, oh my goodness, $20 million a year, and now it's by the end of it, it's like, oh, he's only taking $19 million against the cap.
Yeah.
A former Panther linebacker, AJ Klein, agreed to terms with the Panthers of the North, the Buffalo Bills, on a 3-year deal worth $18 million, 9.7 fully guaranteed. Great signing by Sean McDermott and the Bills. They know what they're getting.
Don't know why we didn't bring him back.
Well, different staff.
But he would have been perfect here.
Staff.
With Kuechly retiring, I understand it's a different staff, but he would have been a good fit here is what I'm saying. That position is a position of need, and that's not a bad contract. And he was very good backing up Luke when he was here. Luke presumably is going to be part of the staff in some way. I just would have really liked to have brought him back. But you're right. Great signing by Buffalo.
All right. Moving on. Back to linebacker, former Patriots linebacker Kyle Van Noy agreed to terms with the Dolphins for a 4-year deal, $51 million and $30 million guaranteed. I touched on him as possibly a dream guy for the Panthers, but obviously not. Another one, Pittsburgh defensive tackle Javon Hargrave agreed to terms with the Philadelphia Eagles on a 3-year, $39 million deal, $26 million guaranteed.
Yeah, that was the guy that was sort of my dream guy for us. Richest nose tackle contract in history, I think. So
It is. That's what I
Interesting.
read too.
Yeah, good for him.
Quarterback Marcus Mariota agreed to terms with the Las Vegas, I'm going to remember that, Raiders on a new deal. They don't have the terms released yet. Derek Carr lighting a fire under him. Yeah. I thought they were going to go for a bigger name than Marcus Mariota.
Yeah, well, that tells you that presumably Derek Carr is going to stay there, right? They're not interested in him leaving yet, but they do want to provide some competition. I like it. I mean, Marcus Mariota is going to be a very good backup quarterback in the league, probably for a long time.
Probably. Amari Cooper, 5 years, $100 million contract with the Cowboys.
Boy.
And they franchise tagged Dak Prescott. So they're going to have to pay him either this year or next year. Probably, supposedly he turned down $30 million a year too.
Yeah, they
reportedly
supposedly like the richest new money contract in the history of the NFL. He turned it down. So, they'll still work on it. I have a feeling he'll probably get signed to a long-term deal before the season starts. The franchise tag doesn't preclude them from doing that, but that's a lot of money you're going to be spending on your wide receiver and your quarterback over the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Assuming that Dak stays. That's a lot of money. Now, would you rather have Stephon Diggs or Amari Cooper?
Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, and obviously you'd rather have Hopkins.
Oh, yeah. Hopkins easily a step above both of those guys.
I wonder why they couldn't trade for Hopkins rather than sign Cooper to this massive deal. I feel like the Cardinals just fleeced everybody getting Hopkins.
Well, DeAndre Hopkins has a pretty hefty deal in place.
Yeah, but you'd much rather have Hopkins. Let's see what DeAndre Hopkins' deal is.
I believe it's like $19 million. I'm looking it up right now.
5 years, $81 million contract.
Well, you got to look at this season's what he's actually going to get. DeAndre Hopkins is only a $12.5 million cap hit this year.
And he's signed for 3 more years.
Oh, man. It only gets up to 13.9.
Isn't that crazy? Like, how much worse does this trade look?
So much worse.
Every time you look at this trade, it gets worse.
Hey, people. In listener land, think about this. DeAndre Hopkins is getting $12.5 million. Devin Funchess got $13 million last year. Yeah. That's how big the market has changed since then. This is such a steal.
Yeah, and he signed through 2022. So and by the way, that's his first post-rookie contract. So the guy's still got another big contract in him.
Oh.
Crazy.
I am almost going to be sick with how bad that trade is for Houston.
As Panthers fans, today's a tough day, right? How tough is your day if you're a Texans fan?
Hey, we knew we planned on rebuilding.
Right. Who'd you rather be today, a Texans fan or a Panthers fan? I think I'd rather be a Panthers fan.
At least we signed a quarterback you and I at least have faith in. I know I've seen a lot of Panther fans upset. I know one of our friends in particular is not
not a Bridgewater guy. All right, who we got next?
That's all I had for major announcements. There's probably a lot more.
Well,
is there any that you want to talk about?
Yeah, there's one more. Another former Panther linebacker, Thomas Davis, going to Washington.
I texted you that, but I forgot to add that on my list.
Yeah. Another guy that I wish we would have brought back, if for nothing more than to provide locker room, stability and kind of a coach on the field type of guy.
Let's think about this. Thomas Davis is playing another year. Luke Kuechly retired.
Different injuries, right?
True.
Thomas Davis with the knees, Luke Kuechly with the head. One of those things is way more devastating in the future than the other. So But yeah, I mean, Thomas Davis, what is he? How old is Thomas Davis going to be? Like 35, 36, 37? Thomas Davis. 36. Yeah, actually, he'll be 37 Sunday. So happy early birthday, Thomas Davis. Mm-hmm. I do wish we would have brought him back, but he's going to reunite with Ron Rivera, and good for him. He'll probably have a fine season. He's ageless. So I think that's all the ones that I wanted to talk about. Kevin Durant has the coronavirus.
Okay.
That dude's just broke. So, not great for him. Let's see. Jason Witten went to the Raiders on a 1-year deal. I guess that's...
What are they thinking with that?
Jason Witten, retired, went to Monday Night Football, and now he's getting ready to play on his second post-Monday Night Football team. So, good for him, I guess. That's got to be a super cheap deal.
I think it was like $13 million for 2 years. Like it was $6 million per year. But still, why aren't you retiring, Jason Witten? You've already retired. You didn't look that great last year. You looked slow. You looked old. It's time to hang it up. You're going to be sitting behind Darren Waller, who had a baller year last year.
Yeah, it looks like this is a $4.75 million 1-year deal. So that's not bad. That's not bad.
But why? Hey, is John Gruden going to try to get every old person there?
Yeah, that's what John Gruden wants to do. Get the band back together. Maybe, given his old Monday Night Football,
maybe talk Jerry
compadre.
Rice out of retirement.
These Monday Night Football guys have to work together, Booger McFarland's going to join the staff there.
Oh, God, I hope not.
All right. I think that's going to do it.
I do, too. That's all I've got. Happy St. Patrick's Day, even though most of you won't listen to this on St. Patrick's Day. I'm going to go take a shot of whiskey after I'm done with this.
Yeah, looks like the deal is official with Teddy Bridgewater. 3 years, $63 million. So there you go, $21 million a year. All right, well, everybody stay safe out there. Keep some social distance between you.
Yeah, and if you have any questions or comments, email us at mailbag@meowmixpodcast.com. You can follow us on Twitter at meowmixpodcast. Drop us a line, subscribe, have fun.
Yeah, let us
Stay
know
safe.
what you think about the deals. Anybody out there that you still want the Panthers to go after, hit us up. We'll talk about it. Other than that, though, I don't know when we'll be back. If we'll probably maybe next week, once kind of free agency dies down a little bit. Maybe the week after, we'll see. But we'll be back soon. We'll let you guys know. And until then, everybody, keep pounding.